Hello, and welcome to another Todd Talk, where we take teaching theory and turn it into teaching practice. Today, we're going to be continuing our exploration of the depth and complexity icons, and we're going to be focusing specifically on details. So, what are details? So, as teachers, we throw these around all the time. We say add more details, or be more detailed, or it's not detailed enough. But the question is, what are details? And so, how I like to look at details are the little things that fill in the cracks that we assume that people know, but not they don't necessarily. So, it's important when you're communicating in an essay to let us know exactly what you're thinking. And so you have to make sure that you lay it all out for us with all of the details. So if you make a statement, you need to back that statement up with details so we know what you're talking about, because otherwise you're the only one who's going to know what you're talking about, and the details will be very important. So let me give you some examples of what happens when you don't have details. So if someone said to you, you baked the cookies for 10 minutes, what detail is missing there? Well, obviously, what degree do you bake the cookies at? I mean, if you bake them at 100 degrees, it's going to take an hour. If you bake them at 700 degrees, they're going to burn to a crisp. So what is it exactly? What is the temperature? So that detail is left out. If you said to someone, you go down the hallway and turn to get to the class. Well, if there's multiple ways to turn, then you need to be more detailed. You need to say turn to the right or turn to the left so that they know which way to go. Otherwise, they're going to get lost. If you say to someone, the answer is 17, there's a big detail missing there. What is the question that's being asked in the first place? Because 17 can mean a lot of different things, depending upon the question that's being asked. If you said to me, can you get that for me? What is that? That is very vague. There's a lot of things that can be that. And so you need to be more specific with what it is. And that's where details come into play. Details fill in those blanks. So if I said, can you get that cup for me? Or if I say, turn right when you come to the end of the hallway. Or if I say, the question is, 37 minus 20. Then 17 would be the answer. So those details make a big, big difference. And so it's really important that we teach kids to pay attention to these details and make sure that they're giving these details. When we look at the definition of what details are, we have three possibilities. So we have, these are the key traits, details, or characteristics that define a topic. So there's things that let you know what something is. Which important details make this different from other topics? So those details make a difference. So if you're comparing things and you're trying to say this is better than that, if you lack details, you're not going to make a convincing argument. You're not going to convince us that one is better than the other. What details can be explained further? So details can always be explained further. A lot of times students stop before they fully explain something. And I always tell students it's very difficult to over-explain something. All you're doing is making it very clear. So the more that you can explain, better off it's going to be. So let's take, for example, here. If I ask someone to tell someone how to brush their teeth. So how many steps is this going to be when you're telling them to brush your teeth? So you might start with, you put toothpaste on the toothbrush. Okay, that's simple enough. Then you tell them to brush their teeth. Then you tell them to spit out the toothpaste. And because we don't want to be rude or messy, make sure they rinse the sink. So to someone who knows how to brush their teeth, this makes perfect sense. They could follow these steps. But let's assume that this person does not know how to brush their teeth. They've never brushed their teeth before in their life. There's a lot of things that have to happen. There's a lot of details that are lacking here so that someone knows what to do. So for example, I'm going to get rid of these numbers. There's more than 4 steps. The first thing you have to do is you have to get a toothbrush. Okay, so that's the first thing. You actually have to have the materials. We're assuming that they have a toothbrush. Maybe they don't. You have to get a toothbrush. And you could also add on there toothpaste. So just having the materials is a big detail that sometimes we leave out, especially when we're teaching something. So we may need certain things in order to accomplish. So if I'm teaching someone how to make cookies and I don't tell them what ingredients to have, they may not have those ingredients. They may not have the, the powdered sugar, or they may not have the baking soda. So we need to make sure that those details are in there. Okay. So then we say put the toothpaste on the toothbrush, but there are some details being left out there. Which end of the toothbrush do we put them on? Now we're assuming you put it on the end with the bristles, but we can't assume that if someone doesn't know anything about it. So we would put squeeze toothpaste onto bristles. So we need to be a little more specific here. Rather than just put toothpaste on the toothbrush, we need to say exactly what that looks like. And how much toothpaste do we put on it? Do we put like a gallon of toothpaste? Do we put like an amp? So you could give a description in there, a little detail that says about a pea size. Now, do we have all details so far? Well, I could add some more details. So when you squeeze the toothpaste, you squeeze it from the middle of the tube, the top of the tube. Normally you would squeeze it from the end of the tube, and that way all the toothpaste starts to go towards the front. And so it's easier to use later on. So that might be a detail you might want to add even more so. So then after you put your tooth, and sometimes the details can change a little bit. So when I brush my teeth, I put the toothpaste on first, and then I get the toothbrush wet with water. So you got to know what we're getting it wet with and how long. Because if you get the toothpaste, if you hold it underneath the faucet for a minute, all that toothpaste is going to go away. So it won't be there anymore. So you're just moistening it. So you would say you get the toothbrush wet with water for 2 seconds. And so those details let us know exactly what we need to do. So then, now we have to figure out how brushing your teeth. Brushing your teeth is not very detailed. So in other words, where do you start? How long do you brush them for? Where do you brush them? All those things. So this brushing teeth is not going to be detailed enough. So we're going to need some details in here. So we could say, you got to tell them to open their mouth and put toothbrush onto, let's say, and again, different people start different places. Let's say we start at the left top of teeth. So that person is starting at the left and they're starting at the top. So open the mouth and put the toothbrush onto the left top, and then what do you do? How do you brush your teeth? Again, this is an assumption that we're making, that people know how to brush their teeth. But what do you do? So you make, and some people do it differently. They may make small circles. Some may scrub back and forth. Scrub back and forth across the teeth, moving from left to right. So starting here, I'm brushing back and forth, and I'm moving across my mouth until I get to the right side. Then, of course, I've got to do the bottom. But I've got a lot of toothpaste in my mouth. And so there's a couple details that are really important. The first one is you can always spit out your toothpaste after doing that one, but we're missing a detail. We need to warn people, when you scrub back and forth, don't swallow. Because a big old mouth of toothpaste, it can be kind of disgusting. So we need to caution them. As you're brushing back and forth, make sure you don't swallow. And then once you finish, you spit out the toothpaste into sink. Into sink's really important. You don't want them just spitting on the wall or spitting on the floor. They need to spit into the sink. These little details difference. Now that we've done that, you can move to the bottom. So we kind of do the same thing, we would put our toothbrush on bottom left teeth, and repeat scrubbing. So we don't have to get so much detail there. We don't have to say again, scrub back and forth, moving left to right. They have the directions from up here, so they might be able to do that. Or you might want to include that detail if you're trying to be really thorough. But you put the toothbrush on the bottom left teeth and you repeat the scrubbing method. And then you, of course, have to repeat. So sometimes you lather, rinse, repeat, which seems like simple directions on shampoo, but that's what you have to do. And so in here, you would again spit out toothpaste into sink. Now, like I said, some people do things a little bit differently, so the details might be different. So for example, after I've brushed both sets of teeth, and then I like to brush my tongue because I like to get rid of gingivitis and make sure my tongue is clean. So I might say, take toothbrush and scrub tongue. So we're just, making sure that we get that clean. Okay? Then, of course, we rinse off our toothbrush. We don't want to put it on with a bunch of toothpaste because otherwise it might get hard and congealed. And put back in, and it just depends. So some people put it in a holder. Some people put it in a drawer. So I put mine in a drawer. So now the question becomes, are we missing any details here? Okay. So, one thing, we said rinse off the toothbrush and put back in the drawer. And then if we just leave and the water's still running, it's going to flood. So we have to make sure you turn off sink. And make sure it's clean. And then as a final act, one thing that you want to do, so once you turn off the sink and make sure, I don't know about you guys, but when I brush my teeth, there's always some residue on my mouth, so I always wipe my mouth on towel. So whereas originally we had 4 steps to brushing our teeth, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 steps. We've added 8 steps. And that just fills in those details. And not only that, but we take a look back at this. Do we miss anything? So some details we left out is we told them just to squeeze the toothpaste. Do they know how to take the cap off? Did we tell them to put the cap back on? Because otherwise you put the toothpaste back in the drawer and if the cap's not on, it's going to go everywhere. So there's still some details that we don't quite have here. And so you need to determine how detailed you need to be whenever you are trying to give people information. But I would always caution on the side of being detailed, because the clearer you are, the less of a chance there's going to be a misunderstanding or confusion. Details are especially important when you're teaching something, especially if the person has no idea how to do what you're trying to teach them. So if you're trying to teach someone math, you can't leave out steps because otherwise they won't be able to do it correctly. If you're teaching students how to write, you can't leave out steps. So as teachers, we have to fill in the details all the time. We have to make sure that we're providing those. But then we also need to expect those of our students. So when the students are communicating to us what they know, are they using enough details to make it clear that they understand what we're asking them to understand? And so being able to use this icon of details to remind people to add details is going to be really important. But it's really important also that you clarify with students, what are details? What do those look like? So don't be afraid to use examples and exemplars to show them what details are. So oftentimes, if students have turned in an essay, I'll take a look at some of the good ones and I'll show them to students with permission, of course, and I'll go over where detail was added that made it better. And sometimes I may even ask the student who maybe didn't have enough detail, and we'll take a look at it and see where the detail is lacking and how's that caused confusion. So being able to show them and demonstrate for them what detail looks like is going to go a long way in them understanding that.